everybody. 5U for here in the chilly snake pit of Columbus, Ohio.
Elliott has the first down and more, and Elliott's going to have a touchdown.
Carr, watch out! Blake Carr, blazing speed. Can he get there? No, but he's down at the Ohio State 11.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
Stroud in trouble, and Stroud is sacked again.
There's nothing quite like the game.
Michigan versus Ohio State, the game of the day, the game of the year, the game of the decade. Call it what you will.
This is The Rivalry, sponsored by Elevated Integrity Construction.
This is the Rivalry Podcast. Josh Evans, Josh Pollock, your weekly podcast focused on the Michigan-Ohio State football rivalry, and all garbage free. Nothing that you're going to have to turn off when the kids come in, anything like that. We are excited to be coming to you from the podcast studio. We've got some new toys we're going to play with this year. You might remember that Mitchell, our good Ohio State buddy, not with the podcast this year. Mr. Pollock, our resident Rutgers fan and Buckeye fan, going to chime in. We'll have some Rutgers fun
the best of
along the way.
worlds.
You know, some might say that. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RivalPod on Twitter. Chance to win some fun stuff. That's coming up here in just a little bit. So let's start off with a little bit of an icebreaker. Let's do a little wheel route. Get to know each other. Get to find out what stuff we're looking forward to this year. Run a little bit of a wheel route here for us, Mr.
All right,
Pollock.
are we ready for this? We're going to start the spin.
Wow.
It lands on. This is beautiful.
Much anticipation.
This took me a very long time to make, and all I had to do was type in stuff.
Player you want to watch the most? Like anybody?
I would say let's keep it to. Well, I guess we could open it up to nationwide, but let's do Michigan and then also in the nation.
Okay, so Michigan. I mean, I want to see Blake Corum take over as the lead back. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, Donovan Edwards being there too. It's kind of RB1A, RB1B. But I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think nationwide, Bijan Robinson, running back at Texas, dude is as advertised, and I think Texas is going to be way overhyped. We'll find out week 2 when they play Bama, but I think Bijan Robinson is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
I think for me, I'm going to show my hometown pride here a little bit. For Ohio State, I'm looking at Cade Stover. He was voted a team captain this year. He is from the Lexington, Ohio, which is essentially Mansfield, Ohio. Let's be honest. If you live there, you know it's Mansfield. Don't even try to debate it.
My gosh.
He is a starting tight end this year. He hasn't really had a ton of chances. They've flipped him around. He started out as a recruit for the D-line. Then he moved to linebacker. Then he was tight end. Then back to linebacker. He actually was a linebacker in the Rose Bowl last year against Utah, where he had a phenomenal game, and everybody kind of thought this would be where he would stay. Nope. Moved him back after Ruckert got drafted to the Jets. Now he is the starting tight end, team captain, the hometown side of me.
Of all the players on Ohio State, on that loaded offense, the tight end is your decision.
Cade Stover, let's get it, baby. Nationwide, you guessed it, I'm going hometown pride again. We got the Virginia Cavaliers quarterback, number 5, Heisman candidate, Brennan Armstrong. He's an underdog. Last year, he was absolutely ripping it up. I can't wait to watch him. I'm very excited for Virginia. Dude's a baller. Have you ever watched him? Dude's a baller. He can sling it.
The only person in the country outside of Virginia who cares anything about Virginia.
In the heart of Shelby, Ohio, just about a quick 15-minute drive from Mansfield. Brendan Armstrong's got a fan base.
His parents? That's exciting for him. Okay, so let's get to the task at hand here. University of Michigan opens up on Saturday against Colorado State. We will learn nothing about Michigan from this game. I just want to be very clear right off the bat. Colorado State is a terrible football program. It's an embarrassment.
Last year.
An embarrassment. Like, their helmets are kind of cool because they got the little ram horn.
Yeah, they'll look
thing.
good in the loss.
And that's cool. And you take what you can get. You'll take your check. You'll go home. For Michigan, here's the interesting thing to watch for Michigan is obviously the quarterback battle is the big question. Is it going to be Cade? Is it going to be JJ McCarthy? What are we looking at? So Jim Harbaugh comes out this past weekend and goes, hey, let me, I don't know if he's putting out fires or stoking fires, but he says, hey, Cade McNamara is going to start week 1. We're like, well, okay.
We kind of figured.
And JJ is going to start week 2. Listen, I'm going to try defending Big Ten champion. Who am I to say anything? What a way to tell your opponents that you consider them a practice. You consider them a scrimmage than to say, why don't you play for a little bit and then you're going to play for a little bit and we'll just kind of decide during the UConn game. I don't get it. I don't know. What does it look like from as an outsider?
Here is the one note that I put for this. I said, let's just put it simple. We're all going to be switching to a different game at halftime because ain't nobody sticking around when the inevitable 42-3 at halftime score pops up. I just think Michigan, and that's a very hardball answer to toy with the media and to not give a direct answer. We all assumed that McNamara would be the starter. I mean, how can you take the keys away from the guy that just led you there?
Well, and to be fair, it's such a Harbaugh thing because on top of that, he said, well, obviously JJ, he clarified today, JJ is going to play in week 1. Cade's going to play in week 2. Presumably quarterbacks 3, 4, and 5, if they have a 5th one, are going to play in those weeks as well.
From the stands, to be honest, if you go to that game,
Jim, if you're watching, I'm available. I'm here, but so does that really change anything other than what we expected? It doesn't. I did see one take that said, this lets the quarterback battle play out and takes the pressure. I don't know about that as much as I guess there's something to be said for each guy knowing I'm going to be the guy this week. Yeah. And just getting to see mentally how they prepare for that. Yeah. But I'm with you. Cade is the safer choice. How do you take the keys away from him is a great way to put it. JJ is the flashy sports car who might not be quite as safe, but if you need a guy to make plays, and Jim has said as much, he's going to be your guy. So, I mean, we'll see. It will not matter.
Well, no, and that's the luxury that they have this year is you've got McNamara, who's not going to lose you games. He's not a bad quarterback by any means, but everybody, I think, knows the potential from McCarthy. I mean, every single person that's watched him goes, this is a guy that could be a Heisman candidate in the future. Yeah. So it's hard to not just feel that excitement and lean into it. And I think just want to throw him out there.
If you're a team and we, look at a team like Rutgers, which we'll get to, right? Where you've got
because it's not
Noah Vidral and Gavin Wimsatt. Now, McNamara is nowhere close to Vidral or vice versa. Wimsatt is, I don't think, anywhere close to McCarthy, but it's kind of that same mentality of if you're in a desperate position where Rutgers has nothing to lose, you may as well throw the guy out there.
Absolutely.
Michigan,
please.
Chop or chop on or chop salad or whatever. Yeah. But where Michigan doesn't need to do that, unless you come into, let's say you go into the Maryland game and you get upset at home and Cade's just throwing picks left and right. Okay, sure. But until that happens, you're going to see what we saw last year. That's genuinely what I feel. You will see Cade play as the starter. You will see JJ get a lot of play time in meaningful games and meaningful moments. And you're not going to see anything different because he knows he's got the keys coming next year.
Exactly.
What do you have, my friend, for prediction for Michigan, Colorado State on Saturday?
This is going to be a shocker. I got Michigan beating Colorado State 56-7. I just think the offense for Michigan, it's too powerful. Yeah. I think the defense takes a little bit of a slide back, but I don't think
only giving up 7 points.
But I don't think it matters against Colorado State. No. I think when they get to the meat of their schedule, you'll notice it a little bit. I still think Michigan's going to roll them over. It'll be 3rd and 4th string freshman quarterback moms and dads will get to watch their children play for an
and that's good
half.
for them. That's good
phenomenal.
For them. I am not far off. 54-10.
10.
You kick a field goal at the end of the game for good measure. Who knows? 54-10. I don't. This Michigan offense is even better than last year. And the defense will, in losing Hutch and losing Ajabo and some of those guys, I don't think they will be as good. But have you also seen guys like Mike Morris and Mozzie Smith? There are some big boys coming in.
No slouches.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I think Colorado State. I mean, they're coming into that game. Their starting quarterback, starting running back, starting receiver last year, all are gone.
They're
bringing in completely brand new people. which we'll also get into with Ohio State coming up.
This podcast sponsored this year by our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction. They do residential and commercial construction, and not just construction, but they do design as well. So if you've got a home build, a church build, great opportunity to go with our friends at Integrity, elevatedintegrity.com, elevatedintegrity.com. We are grateful to Elevated Integrity Construction sponsoring this podcast. By the way, if you're following us on Rival Pod, at Rival Pod on Twitter, if you retweet this episode with your score prediction for the Michigan or the Ohio State game, you have a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card. That is on Twitter only. So at Rival Pod on Twitter.
It's not just a game, it's the game. You're listening to The Rivalry.
JP, Ohio State, Notre Dame, a much bigger deal than Michigan, Colorado State aims to be. Primetime game. What are we looking at going into week 1 for the Buckeyes? Big game to start off. Speaking of non-conference slouches, this is not one.
No. This game's a little bit hard for me to really predict. So I have what I feel like will happen. I've got a lot of confidence going into this week, and I feel like every Ohio State fan normally has that, but I feel like this is a big game that I feel like Ohio State's either going to be upset and we're all going to be surprised at how good Notre Dame is, or it is not going to be a game and everybody's going to be saying this Notre Dame team is a fraud. And I don't think I just don't see it being a close win for Ohio State. I think they either blow them out or they lose. I just don't see like a 21-17 Ohio State win.
No.
I think there are so many factors that go into it. Notre Dame's coming into the game. They lost Jack Cohen. They lost every key player they could ever think of.
I think the Leprechaun declared for the draft too. Like, you're down a mascot.
He's in the NFL somewhere now. They lost everybody. They have a sophomore that's coming out. They just have so much inexperience on the offensive side. And I am curious, and I've heard a lot of talk about this, so this is what I'm most curious to see coming into this week, is the Ohio State defense. I've heard all throughout this offseason, Jim Knowles came in, and that he has just been working them, that they have gotten ready, that they have been impressive. I don't know if I buy it. I don't think I'm cashing that check.
I'm with you.
I think you got to shut up or put up. You got to go out there and you've got to actually prove it to me. And this is a great test. I mean, I know Notre Dame's offense isn't like last year. If it was the same as last year, I would be feeling better if they come out and just totally dominated them.
Yeah.
This one won't be as sweet if the defensive side really picks it up. But I just want to see that attitude, and I think that'll be enough for me. If they can come in with that Ohio State defense attitude that I'm used to, where they're hitting hard and they're pumped up and they've got some energy and some juice in them, then I think I can take that away. I can be happy going into the bigger games later on down the season.
Because there's no question that the offense is going to be good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. I think every single person is agreeing Ohio State's going to put up 35 plus this
easily.
game. There's no. If that doesn't happen, I will be stunned.
The defense is the big question, because again, there's a reason that they hired Jim Knowles this offseason. Is Ohio State's defense has been a liability for seasons now. It wasn't just last year, but the encapsulation, especially from a rivalry standpoint. I was at the game in November. They did not have that dog in them, as the kids are saying. Well, not even the last touchdown where they let Hassan Haskins score his 5th. That was a strategy move. I'm talking about the 4th touchdown Haskins scores at the goal line, and they looked like they could not care.
Yeah.
They did not give
no fight.
There was no effort to keep him out of the end zone. That's when, as a fan in the stadium, you knew, okay, this might actually go our way this year. Jim Knowles is coming in, and he's done good things at Oklahoma State. I was in Stillwater for a little bit, so I know how passionate they are about their football program. That's also against Big 12 offenses. And I know Big 12 offenses is a thing. They don't play defense, all that stuff. I just have a question if that's going to translate into the Big 10. Now, Notre Dame is down their top wide receiver. They've got an untested quarterback. All those things tell me that Ohio State should have success on the defensive side. That being said, if I'm Notre Dame and I'm Coach Freeman, I'm looking at the tape from November and going, this is how you beat a team like this. You run the ball down their throats and you make them stop you. Because everybody said that about Michigan, right? Back in the Washington game. You can't just run the ball. You'll never beat Ohio State that way. Fun fact, Yes, you can.
Well, and I think
you're not going to
last year.
Yeah, you're not going to out-talent Ohio State. Notre Dame is not going to out-talent them. They're going to have to grind the clock out, run the ball, and Ohio State's going to have to stop them or they're going to be in a world of hurt.
100%. And I think it's going to come down to that heart, because I think if Notre Dame can come out of the gate early swinging and they can punch Ohio State in the mouth early, Ohio State's going to back up, because I think right now they've got that confidence. They're like, we're a different team this year. Their defense is coming out, and they're like, we've been with Jim Knowles all offseason. We've been working. We're better. And if Notre Dame comes out and is like, no, you guys are still pretty bad.
Yeah.
You guys are still pretty bad. I think that'll suck the wind right out of them, and that's a whole new ballgame.
And I think the momentum piece there is huge, because, again, this is week 1 of the season, right? This is one of those things where anything can happen. If you – we'll talk about this all season. I'm not a big CJ Stroud guy. I'm not a big believer in his leadership skills. I question if he finds himself down in a game, what is the mental toughness of that team? Mm-hmm. For that very reason of, yeah, we're a different team. We're moving on. If you find yourself down at home to Notre Dame, if you find yourself in a slugfest, you find yourself in a 1-score game going into the half, do you have the mental toughness to stick it out? I think you have the talent, but the mental toughness side is a big piece for me.
Well, see, and I think on the offensive side of the ball, I don't see a struggle with that. I think if they were down, I think CJ comes out, and I think he knows he's gifted enough, and he's got the playmakers that nothing is insurmountable for them. I don't see that on the defensive side, and I think in years past, Ohio State has had that guy that you can look at and say, okay, we had
Chase
the
Young.
Bosas, we had Chase Young, we had Ward, and we had what's his name, Okuda, and you had these guys that was like a staple of that defense that you could look to and say, here's my guy.
Yeah.
He is going to the draft in the first round.
It's a Hutch Ojabo situation where you can rely on those guys.
And even if your other areas aren't as strong, you have that guy that is just so dominant. And Ohio State has nobody like that on the defensive side of the ball. And so I think that's the question. And that was the huge difference with Michigan last year, is they got down and the defense just couldn't stop a single thing. Yep. And they had nobody that was like, this is enough. We're going to go out there and we're going to smack them in the mouth. We're going to get the stop. We're going to give the ball to our playmakers on offense. They're going to score, and we're going to go back out there and do our job. They didn't have that dog.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the setup we're looking at. What's the score predict? I mean, I think we're both tipping our hands here on where we're going with this. Yeah. I mean, go ahead as the resident Buckeye.
Okay,
I mean,
so
what do you got?
For me, I just think at the end of the day, the inexperience Notre Dame is bringing in, if it was a day game, maybe I'd feel a little bit more confident. But going into a night game, there's a lot of expectations on Ohio State this year, so you know it's going to be packed. It's going to be loud. Notre Dame's quarterback coming in as a sophomore. He doesn't have a lot of playing time. Going into that kind of an environment is crazy. I've got a final score, OSU 38, Notre Dame 17.
You are slightly kinder to the Irish than I was.
Oh, no.
42-20.
Okay.
I don't think that they can keep up with them, and I think Ohio State just gets in the rhythm. The wide receiver core is still just so good. Now, I don't think your core is going to ever be better than what you had last year in Jigba and Olave and Wilson. But Fleming and Harrison, like you've got some guys on there who are going to put up points. And unless Notre Dame just shocks the world, here's the deal. Here's the deal. This is a top 5 matchup in theory, right? The spread right now is 17.5.
Yes. I just think.
Tell me another top 5 matchup that has a 17.5 point spread. It's absurd. And they will cover.
Oh,
and they will cover.
For sure. I just think at the end of the day, Ohio State is for sure scoring more than 35 points a game. And I think in no universe is there one that exists where Notre Dame can put up 35, even on a bad Buckeye defense, with this much inexperience on the offensive side of the ball. I think by the end of the season, maybe this might be a hot take. I don't know if qualifies. I don't even think Notre Dame will be in the top 10. I think I think they'll be a 15 to 20 range by the end of the season.
It's the same deal we get every year with Notre Dame. Where it's, guys, no, Notre Dame's good this year. No, really this time. And they're not. It's the Texas, we're back, but they were not back, and they never are, and that's the deal with that. So, okay. So, by the way, again, on Twitter at RivalPod, retweet the episode, your score prediction closer than ours. You have a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card. We're not going to walk through the whole schedule. We've got weekly episodes. We don't need to do that, but I am curious as we look down the schedule. Michigan's got a pretty favorable one. Mm-hmm. The non-conference this year is pretty favorable. There's only a couple difficult road games, I think, on that schedule. I'm curious as you look through what you're looking at from a Michigan prediction standpoint, and for Ohio State, Ohio State has a remarkably difficult schedule this year compared to years past. I'm looking at Michigan, and I'm somewhere in the 11-1 range.
I can see that. I think
is this because they don't play anybody non-conference, right? They play at Iowa and at Ohio State are the two games I have circled. Yes. Now, Penn State, Michigan State are difficult. Those are at home. I'm not saying which one of those they will lose. I just don't see them losing more than one at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just look down. I think if maybe the Penn State or Michigan State was an away game, I would feel a little bit more cautious to put an L there. I just don't see it. I just can't look at this schedule. I told you before the show even started, I think by the time Ohio State and Michigan meet, it's going to be another top 5 matchup, tale of undefeateds. Whoever gets it goes to the Big Ten championship. All the marbles on the line.
Yeah.
I just don't see any route. I think Ohio State's too talented on offense. I think their defense will be substantial enough in the big games to carry them through some of those other teams. I think it's going to come down in Ohio on November 26th. Yeah, I think it's going to come down to that being two teams undefeated, and it's going to be a classic.
I will say I don't have that. I've got Ohio State losing 2 games during the regular season, so we'll put that in our back pocket. I am one of the few people that genuinely, not just Homer, genuinely believes Michigan will beat them in Columbus. As of right now.
I would hope that you would have that confidence.
As of right now, I don't see any reason why they couldn't. I also have them losing, I think, to Penn State, the battered shell of Sean Clifford, assuming that is still going on at the starting quarterback position. May need to amend that in the future. The last thing that we want to do is, because Mr. JP here is someone asked me this week, and I said, I don't know, a Rutgers fan on top of being an Ohio State fan.
Damn.
Which explains the random flag that's there.
Shiano, baby.
We started a segment that we brought you in for last season when Mitchell was still on the podcast called Rutgers to the Rose Bowl, where we just predict and look at the chances that Rutgers actually has to actually make a Rose Bowl. Because when that happens,
party.
We're all going. You're invited to. We're all going. We're all going to the Rose Bowl. What is the Rutgers to the Rose Bowl chance right now in week 1?
I'm going to hit you with a technicality because technically you just said, what's the chance?
Yeah. Like
and they haven't played a game. They haven't lost yet. So technically it's still 100% that they have a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. Will it happen? I can't
Who's to say?
I can't
Who's to say?
I can't say.
You start Gavin Wimsatt. We'll let him sling the ball around.
Please.
Can we remember that we went to the Rutgers game at the Big House last year and Michigan won that game by 6 points?
Rutgers is a tough out.
That was terrifying.
Tough out.
Terrifying. Rutgers to the Rose Bowl. You cannot win any gift cards for that, so don't.
Yeah,
don't bother.
It's too easy of a score to predict. Just put a big old goose egg next to Rutgers and you're fine.
Let me throw out one more thing. One game that's not Michigan or Ohio State that you want to watch this week.
I won't go Homer because I am excited. I do.
Well, we get it. Virginia, we know.
Look, I've got players from my area that play for Michigan State, that play for Kentucky, that play for Virginia. So I always like to keep some tabs.
We don't care.
Look, the game that I'm actually really looking forward to, I know a lot of people might say Oregon, Georgia. Gross. Georgia's going to absolutely
Georgia by
smack
a
'em.
billion.
Yeah, it's going to be disgusting. That'll be another snooze fest. I am pumped to watch this West Virginia and Pitt game, and I don't know why. Maybe because it's like the first somewhat legit game of the year. And so I'm looking forward to that. Other than obviously getting to see Rutgers, I'm excited to watch them until about the 5 minutes in, and then I'm sad. But outside of my teams, I'm going to be pumped to watch that on Thursday night.
That's a good one.
I've got a nice little setup on the backyard ready to go. And then I'll just be keeping up with some of my hometown guys, hoping that they do well.
Purdue, Penn State on Thursday night as well will be a good one to watch. And then I'm with you on Georgia, Oregon. not going to be a good
I might
game
have
for
it on
very
in the
long.
background while I'm
Yeah, while you're doing
laundry
it's a
or
good game while you're doing chores. Well, you've got some other stuff going on. You can kind of glance, go, oh, they scored again. That's what that game's going to be. I think on Friday night, Western Michigan at Michigan State. I'm interested in that. I don't think Western is good enough to play with them, especially without Sky Moore. But
So you'll be rooting for my hometown guy, Angelo Gross, number 15, cornerback.
No, wrong way.
That's what I heard.
Any chance that Michigan State could get upset by some random team on a weekday night is fine by me, and I'm excited about that. Thanks for joining us for this episode on Twitter at RivalPod. Make sure you retweet the episode. Make sure you follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the games.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter at RivalPod for live tweets, score predictions, contests, and more. And make sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Wednesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.